No.
What's up, y'all? It's Wednesday night.
It's Saturday
Live with
Night
Antonellis.
Live.
Woo! How's it going, y'all? We are so pumped to be here. This is going to be such an awesome night.
I got my cheese plate. What are you doing? You look great.
I feel great. I was just getting my chair not connected to yours. It seemed like I was trying to get
we're crisscrossed.
a little
now.
space.
You know what? So if you have joined us before and you're joining us right now and you're like, something looks different, it does. We had one of those like we're sick of everything moments, and we reorganized our whole living room area, and now it feels naked right here because we need our tree. Bring in our dead tree. Okay.
No.
There she is.
There she is,
Here.
but it's like rubbing against my head. So I'm gonna angle a little bit better. There we go,
Hey,
y'all.
Okay, now let's go that way. No, come my way, so. There we go.
Fantastic.
There we go. Okay.
This is such an exciting night, y'all. We are pumped to be here.
We are doing Cheese Myths Busted. And so right now, everybody is still coming online and trying to find us, and we're going to inevitably get 10 emails that say, how do I find your videos?
No, not anymore. I built a really awesome sheet. Don't you remember?
Okay, do you want to move the tree like back here?
It's like it's like up in my grill. There, that's better. That's better. That's fantastic.
Now it just looks like an extension of your long, curly COVID hair.
Hey, man. What you doing over there?
Y'all look at these COVID locks. This is between both of us. We're going to be able to like donate a lot to Locks for Love,
and we'll be able to watch it as it happens. I think it's going to be. You'll be able to see the iterations of my hairdo during COVID.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be outstanding because they've all been on Facebook.
Okay, you guys. Again, while people are coming on, we looked and we how many we have taught. Our whole team. Over 4,500 people.
5,000
people.
Over
5,000 people.
All virtually since March 20th. Isn't that awesome?
So thank you. Thanks for helping keep us in business. It means so much.
It is so cool. And we got to do a really phenomenal training with the team last week for the first time in a while. And got to share that news with them, and it just blew their minds.
Yeah, we kept being like, we've done a lot of these. We've done a lot. So some of y'all know that because you have taken multiple ones. So tell us in the comments if you have taken more than a few. Let us know how many this is for you. Also, let us know if this is your first tasting, because that helps us know how much to go back. And if we don't have any first timers, then we'll just jump on forward. And then the other things we like to know in the comments are you celebrating anything? Let's shout it to the world. It's hard because we don't get to all be out and telling everybody what we need to celebrate. So tell us what you're celebrating. It could just be making it through another Wednesday, for the record. And then...
Or tell us what you're drinking. You know, you might be celebrating...
Everybody's drinking Rambler.
What's up, Rambler?
Hello, Rambler sparkling water.
So good, y'all.
Tell us if this is your first time having Rambler. We'd love to know that, too. So hopefully everybody got them today, but it was a new process for us. Rambler, they're awesome. They're a local company. They are in partnership with Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation. Did I say it right? Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation. Yes. And they saw that John and I personally, we always have bubbles with us when we're tasting cheese. Why? Cheese is fatty and palate coating, and so to get a clean, fresh bite every time, and sometimes just refresh us and reawaken our palate and be a cleanser, we like bubbles. Bubbles just pick up those fats, take them back. And so while sometimes we're also include our sparkling wine as those bubbles, we usually almost always have a Rambler. So here is thank you to Rambler. Woohoo! They gave each and every one of you, John is moving around our setup while I'm talking. Again, I told y'all we moved all the furniture, so we have a new setup today. So Rambler donated these for everybody, which is super awesome. So I hope that if you're into it, you'll taste it and use it as your palate cleanser between each cheese. And then in some cases, it's going to make it fun when we add in jams and stuff like that too. So thank you, Rambler. You're awesome. Thanks for sponsoring us for the month of June for all of our tastings.
So we have a 13-year anniversary happening tonight.
Yeah, Mindy.
Congratulations. And Anna and Randy are celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday for y'all.
And welcome Gwen as a first time.
And Kyle. This is awesome, y'all.
And Alana. We got a lot of first timers.
And second timers. I am super pumped. So this is awesome.
If you see us looking around, it's because we have our
Dawn is on number 10. Woo! Love that.
Damn, Dawn. I think you might be winning. That's exciting. We do have plans to go at the end of this please let the end be soon, but we know it's not, so we're not even going to tease us. But when things are more back to normal, which means like we're actually open because we're not opening for a while. But when that happens, we are going to give some prizes away to whoever did this with us a lot and helped get us through these months. So thank you, Dawn, for sure. Okay. Somebody asked, how long before class do we like to we take our cheese out about an hour before class. It just depends if you're outside, the temperature of your house. But the point is you just want your cheese to be room temperature because it's going to be more flavorful, open up, and you're going to get the full expression of the cheese.
Even if you take the plate out 2 or 3 minutes before class, by the time Kendall and I are finished with our introductions, they'll start to warm up. And by the time we get to the blue, it'll have been an hour. So you're going to be all great.
Okay, basically, for all your first timers, just know Kendall and John talk a lot. What else do we say? We are unscripted, which means even if we had a script, we go off script anyway. But you're getting, that's why we call it real time with the Antonellis. Because you just don't know what's going to come out of our mouths. And we sat down and I was like, what cheeses are we tasting tonight? Which lets you know just how much we regularly know because I didn't even look at what we were doing.
Yeah, but it's so exciting because I haven't tasted one of these cheeses in over 6 months. So I am like freaking out a little bit, waiting for that bite. So and I'm just grateful to be here. We have... Kendall's mom has had our kids for the last 10 days, and this morning, we've been homesick, missing them, and this morning got to pick them up from cowboy camp, and so now we've got our wild and crazy kiddos, which we absolutely love having around the house. So maybe they'll be running back in or not. I totally expect them to
streak through at some point because now they're out of the game. We took a week break last week, so now hopefully we're all back in the rhythm. Yeah. All right, so to set us all up and get our mise en place and our station going. You have your plate, for those of you who didn't read plate, and if you will see, John and I have our big, beautiful ice cream scoop of fresh Chev, which is your big white ball. That is at our 12 o'clock, and when we start tasting, we're going to go around clockwise. We'll talk about the cheese first and invite you to eat it, and we'll talk about the pairing, and then we're going to talk about the cheese myth that we're going to bust tonight. We're going to bust it. I wish I had some, like, type of thing.
Mic drop?
Yeah.
We're gonna get.
I don't know, like a ball that explodes, like some sort of Nickelodeon kid show. Ooh, like.
Double Dare.
Yeah, Double Dare. Thank you.
I could get that from the sound that you're making. Isn't that awesome?
All right, guys. Hopefully, I get some language today. I am Kendall.
And I'm John.
And we're the Antonellis. We own and operate Antonellis Cheese Shop here in Austin, Texas. We opened 10 years ago. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary in February, and COVID hit Austin mid-March, and we had to switch everything. So, in case you don't know, because somebody dragged you to this platform tonight, we have a retail shop in Hyde Park. It's closed to walk-in traffic right now, but you can order online or by phone. And we're doing same-day orders again now. So support our cheese shop. We have an events program where we do 200 to 300 tastings a year, and so we're doing these as public classes. Our team is also doing them via Zoom, and we're doing a lot of private parties for like corporate team building and nonprofit events and anniversaries and special occasions. So if you know if somebody needs that private celebration, we have a wholesale warehouse where we serve about 150 restaurants nationwide in Central Texas, but unfortunately that program, it's kind of creeping back to life now with restaurants reopening, but it has been basically non-existent. And then we have e-commerce, and we ship a Cheese of the Month Club nationwide. So that is who we are, what we do. Our mission is to do good, eat good. It means we support makers who make their food in a way that's great for their animals, the planet, their teams, delicious for us. And then when you spend your $30 for this cheese plate tonight, you get to support that cycle, and we do all the same. And we're very involved in our community and taking care of our people and giving back where we can. So with that, I think we should eat some cheese.
Yeah, you want to do it?
Let's do it.
This is awesome.
Okay.
I'm so pumped.
You talk about that, and I'll do it.
Okay. So what I want you to do...
Hey, first timers!
First timers, yeah. The First Timers Club. You'll get your jackets in the mail, first timers. This is a Spanish Cuico, should be in the middle of your plate. That and the bread are fair game to kind of eat and enjoy at your leisure. Everything else will be paired as we go. We'll eat and talk about it. So these little guys are Spanish corn nuts. What we're going to do is just align our palates. We do this before every tasting. What I want you to do, go ahead, pinch your nose, throw the Cuico and start chewing. Pay attention to what's happening on your tongue. You might pick up salty, sweet, sour, bitter, or umami notes. And when you're like, oh, I really know what this thing tastes like, unplug your nose and exhale out through your nostrils. Yes, exactly. We're getting the Facebook Live internet breaking right now with happiness, I think.
Oh,
What's happening
like,
is
did we break something?
this olfactory experience that you're having really takes these corn nuts to a whole nother level. And over the course of Facebook Live, I think the Texans call it Frito pie, and the Northerners, anybody north of Texas, which is everybody else, calls it popcorn. And so a really buttery popcorn. And so it's just a really robust flavor, and that all comes from the aroma. So taste on your palate, aroma in your nose equals flavor. And so we're going to be talking about flavor most of the time tonight. Yeah, look at all those emojis. I love it. I love it.
So the goal is, just like when you're at a wine tasting or some other tasting, that you slow down, and before just jamming it back and mindlessly eating it, I mean, hey, we got time and we're all cooped up for the most part. We hope you mindfully eat each one of these as well. And we're going to talk about it visually. Pick it up and smell it. If we forget to talk about the smell, when you're eating it, does it make a noise? After all, squeaky cheese curds aren't squeaky cheese curds if they don't squeak. And that affects the flavor and our perception of the flavor. And then keep it on your palate. Make sure it's room temp, on your palate at least. And then when you swallow it, think about the finish too. So all of that sensory process, we want to engage all 5 of our senses as we're mindfully eating these cheeses. Because a lot of labor of love goes into these babies. And we want to make sure that you know it and can appreciate all the work that goes into it. And we'll tell you the stories about them.
Hell yeah. Oh, cheesemaker Amelia, we're tasting your cheese first tonight. Amelia just signed on, which is awesome. But we have a happy birthday to Adrian and happy anniversary to Jim and Sandra. That's cool.
Awesome.
Love sharing love, y'all. That's super cool.
Okay.
Hopefully we make Amelia proud. We're going to go ahead and taste the cheese, and then we're going to talk about the myth.
Yes.
So
we're gonna flip our normal script around.
So
this big, beautiful ice cream scoop, ta-da! It's a little bit washed out with our lighting in here since we're not in a studio and we're in Antonellis' home.
Where is 12 o'clock? Big, fluffy, white ball of cheese will be 12 o'clock.
Put your big, fluffy, white ball of cheese, the only one on your plate, after 12 o'clock. We're going around clockwise. I don't have a menu to hold up, but hopefully you all got a menu. And then John will also be typing in the chat the menu and our pairings that are going with it. So our first one is a fresh chev. This is made by Pure Luck Farm and Dairy in Dripping Springs. As we just said, awesome cheesemaker Amelia Sweetheart is on with us. Chev just means goat. What do we think of when we're talking about a fresh chev? And it's goat in French, excuse me. And it's any fresh cheese is really, you can eat it that day, meant to be eaten within a week to 2 weeks. They can last a lot longer, but you really, to get a full expression of that first clean milk, the sooner you taste it, the better.
Amelia, when would this have been, the milk come from the animals?
Yeah, let us know, Amelia, when
would have been in the last 7 days, likely, to 10 days.
If you smell a fresh cheese, well, I don't need to go too much into Cheese 101. We do a different class called Cheese 101. But really, they're always going to be bright white. They're rimeless. If they smell mostly lactic, and then depending on what style of cheese it is, the goat's milk cheeses are tangy, minerally, sometimes a little grassy. Sometimes I get a little zest on them.
I love the minerality of this. Amelia, the farm is out in the hill country, just past Dripping Springs, and you get this really amazing limestone sort of foundation that helps create the grasses and the trees and everything that the animals eat, and so you get this nice minerality through the milk. So Amelia said the animals would have been milked within the last 7 to 10 days to get this cheese on our plate today, which is so cool.
Yum.
That's awesome.
The breed matters. So Amelia and Pure Luck Farm and Dairy have Alpine, which have ears stick straight up, Nubian with the big floppy ears, and Saanen goats, which are all white and the little short ears. And whenever we all get to open back up, you guys got to come do a farm tour with us. But that was started by her mom, Sarah. They were also one of the first certified organic herb farms. And now make these amazing, beautiful goat's milk cheeses that often win some of the best awards in America for this style of cheese. So I want to talk about our myth.
Yeah, let's talk about myths. We're gonna work on 7 myths tonight.
I have more to sprinkle
awesome.
in if I make it. Okay, so myth number 1: cheese is bad for you. I just thought this was a good one to debunk from the very beginning. I don't know how often John and I are in a grocery store and people are like, hey Kendall, I'm sorry, and then they feel like they need to confess to us that they're sorry they can't eat cheese right now or whatever, which is fine. You do you. We all go on different things and cleanses and whatnot. Excuse me, I need a little rambler.
Need a little rambler. But for the most part, what we find is that cheese has so many great health benefits.
Yes.
And that's really what Kendall taught a class on this at the beginning of the year, because it's something that we're passionate about.
Every January I teach a cheese is healthy class because I know everybody says they're going to go on diets. And I'm like, make sure your diet includes cheese.
A healthy balance of other foods. You don't want to get too siloed. And so cheese offers this amazing spectrum. And so it's a really beneficial product to include in your habits.
So most of the bad rap for cheese comes from processed cheeses. Processed cheeses have a lot of stuff added into them. They have hydrogenated oils. They have other things in them. So if you were taking processed cheese out of the category, yes, those are not good for you. Velveeta makes a dang good queso, and there's not a single thing about that. I sometimes try to joke that like there's protein in there that's good for me, but I'm pretty sure there's like nothing good for you in queso, that kind of queso.
Yeah.
Which we ate
one
last
fleck
night.
of tomato, though, could be.
Sure. So take processed cheese out of it. So for cheeses, and it really depends on the style of cheese and how long it's made, and each one has different types of benefits. But cheese is a near perfect food. So what that means is because it has fats, proteins, minerals, and vitamins in it, basically if you have that, water, and a salad to help with fiber and digestion, you have a complete diet and everything you need to survive. Just think about that. I'd just like to say that one more time. Eat cheese, salad, and water, and you can survive like forever. Maybe not forever. Okay. Asterisk, John and I are not scientists, and we are not doctors. This is based off all the research. And there's a different study that comes out all the time. And some have said that it lowers cardiovascular disease. Clearly, it's good for calcium and teeth and bone development. Also has shown to fight against certain or reduce tumor growth, to help fight against certain cancers, lower cholesterol. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. So that being said, there's just this long list, and it's like an aged cheddar helps do this, a fresh chev helps do this. If you're looking to specifically have a diet lower in salt, then there's certain types of cheeses that you can try to stick to. If you're looking for a diet lower in fat, then there's certain types of cheeses that you can stick to, and we'll get to that in a later myth. But just the point being that cheese is actually one of the healthiest foods that you can get. Our friend likes to tell the story of when she was hospitalized in Italy, that in the hospital they gave her Parmigiano Reggiano because it's one, and then let me do another one. For Olympians.
I was going to tell this story.
Okay, you do this story.
Well,
I've been talking a lot.
I love it, though. I love hearing it from you. So, Olympians in Italy, it has been rumored, and I totally believe it, that Olympians in Italy are fed Parmigiano Reggiano or aged cheeses after really hard workouts because the proteins have been broken down so much into those amino acids. They are much more readily accessible and easier to get into the bloodstream than, say, sitting down and having a steak, which could take 4 hours to kind of get the protein into the muscles that need it, whereas Parmigiano Reggiano can be digested much quicker and faster. And so it's a really super cool story about how you can identify a particular grouping of cheeses and apply them in a very unique way because there's such a myriad of sizes, shapes, ages.
There you go.
Yeah, so
cool.
Cool.
With that, the other fun fact, because I can't remember how many diets I've been on, that always like you eat a hard-boiled egg. So ounce per ounce, a cheese is lower in fat and higher in protein than an egg. So next time you're doing a diet and you're going to carry around, we had a teammate one time who just carried around an egg in her purse. I don't even think she had it in a bag, right? It was just like an egg floating in her purse.
Ready to go.
Eat an ounce of cheese, and she worked at a cheese shop, and we're like, just eat a piece of cheese instead. So that's a fun note. And then also cheese is just super high in CLAs, which is what makes it beneficial for all those other things, slew of things that I had talked about. I think that's where, without trying to, because I've done a whole class on this, without deep diving, I just wanted to get the point across that cheese is healthy and can be part of a healthy diet. And just like everything,
it should be.
Cheese is, enjoy something in moderation. Like if you sit down, tonight we have over half a pound of cheese on this plate, around a half a pound of cheese. So anything in moderation, but we're always telling people like this plate of cheese with a salad is a perfect meal for you. So, and there's health benefits to almost everyone. All right, let me know if you have questions on that. We can
That's
try to dive in
awesome.
deeper
Yeah,
later.
guys, use the chat feature to ask any questions that you might have. It's super awesome that we had the cheese maker on. Amelia is currently milking the animals. So next week, we'll be tasting the cheese that was made the day after from this milk, which is awesome.
Woo!
That's so cool.
So myth number 1, cheese is bad for you. Busted.
Busted.
Okay. Oh,
Boom.
and if anybody
we need
wants,
like a stamp.
boom. If you want backup research on any of these things, we're happy to send it to you as well. Okay. Myth number 2.
It's awesome. There's mold in my brie.
Let's talk
There's
about.
blue mold in my brie.
Let's talk about this cheese
I love
first.
this cheese.
Let me see. Okay, this is. Go for it, Johnny.
Y'all, this is Humboldt Fog. This is made by Cypress Grove,
The American original.
the original American original. So
Oh.
we're doing behind the scenes tasting with them on the 20th. Cypress Grove is one of the original goat's milk cheesemakers in the country. Mary Keene founded this in the early 80s. She was trying to create she wanted to give an alternate milk source to her children. And so they got some goats and they milked them, and then there was a lot of milk, and then they made cheese, and then they made really good cheese, and they made even better cheese. And they just launched this company, and Humboldt Fog is their signature cheese.
As you're
And so-
eating it, I'm sorry to ask
Oh,
this
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
people
I've
always dive
already
in.
probably
Okay,
started eating.
we forgot to tell you because we went out of order, but let me see if I can get in there. Okay, go see it. Okay, great. You see how there's the inner chalky white part? I want you to get a bite of that first. Then that yellow around the outside, that's called the cream line. Then get a bite of that cream line. And then lastly, eat a bite with the rind. So you basically are getting 3 different cheeses in one, but they all do taste different and provide different flavor profiles. Again, in our 101, we would talk about this more, but if we'd cut into this cheese when it was really young, it would have no cream line. If we let it age longer, the cream line would get thicker and you'd lose more of this chalky paste.
Yeah. And so we had a question about the pairings. I had mentioned the pairing in the chat window. It was with the apricot. I ate all my apricot.
Oh, yeah,
It's
our
gone.
bad. So the
So
fresh
good.
chev was with the apricot to kind of marry acid and acid
Yeah.
on your round 1.
And now with the Humboldt Fog, it'll be the slices of membrillo paste. This is quince, sort of like a little apple.
So when I eat the Humboldt Fog, I get a little more lemony.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot more lemony flavor profile. Also, as you can tell, the texture is, we need our Rambler for this one. It's delicious. It's super palate coating. It's almost fudgy like peanut butter. It almost sticks to your palate, which is just what makes eating this cheese so fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is a beautiful cheese. It comes, basically it looks like a birthday cake, and it has this beautiful white mold around the outside that derives from Penicillin camemberti.
Good salt content tonight.
Yeah, it's delicious.
I'm
So I'm
liking it.
really getting that lemon note.
Yeah.
And pair it with your membrillo paste. But let's talk about our
Yeah.
myth.
And so there will have been a couple of wheels that we cut into for this. So I can see that Kendall got a piece from a wheel that was different than my piece, based off of the size of the cream line. And so we're tasting different bits right now, which is fun. So if you have a partner that you can share with, try that. It's very fun.
Saltier and what you might call more aggressive or more pronounced flavor in the cream line.
Yeah.
So it's going to be most delicate in the inner chalky paste, saltier and maybe a little bit in your brain funkier, and the cream line, and then whether to eat the outside or not, the mold we can talk about as well. But
yeah. But what?
Here's the other myth we often hear.
Yeah, the myth that we often hear. Oh, there's blue mold growing in my Humboldt Fog or in my white grinded cheese.
Or people will say, my favorite blue cheese is Humboldt Fog.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will say, oh, actually, this dark coloring is not blue mold. To which point, customers will adamantly argue with us that this is blue mold. And customers are always right, so we try to, at our best, say, oh, actually, this part is...
So this is a food-grade vegetable ash. This is basically, it's charred vegetables that are typically mixed with salt. And so a cheesemaker like Humboldt or like Cypress Grove will add this food-grade vegetable ash into a big shaker, and after they add curds into the mold would be sort of typically twice the size of the actual cheese. It's finished cheese, and that way they can put those really wet curds into there, and it will slowly start to lose that moisture, and crumbed out. And so once they filled it halfway, what they'll do is they take that salt shaker and coat the curds with this food grade vegetable ash. And then what's really cool about this cheese, then they'll pour more curds on top of that. And then eventually, once that comes out of the mold, they'll dust more and more. If you actually want to learn about Humboldt Fog and all the other cheeses they make, join us on the 20th. The behind the scenes, they'll have video content and they'll share some really super cool stuff with us. But for food grade vegetable ash, this is a historically significant technique that was used. And my sort of where the rubber hits the road for me, or the easiest way to kind of remember this, is that cheesemakers in the Alps, when they were making these large format cheeses, I'll use Gruyere, which we have on our plate tonight, or I'll use Comté. I'm going my original love, Comté, which is in the Jura Mountains, a different set of mountains. What they would do is that they would make this beautiful large wheel of cheese, and every day the amount of milk would be different. And so what they'd end up doing is taking whatever leftover curd they had from these Comté and putting them into molds, smaller molds. Comté is an 80-pound wheel, so you need a lot of curds to make a wheel. Mobier is a much smaller one, so you could add less curds into that wheel. So if they had leftover curds at the bottom of the vat, they'd add them to these small ones. And to keep insects away from these cheeses, they'd take their hands and sort of get the dust and ash from the fire itself, or from the bottom part of the cauldron, and rub it on the top. And it acted as an insect, keeping insects away at the time, because it was it's edible and it's fine for the human, but bugs wouldn't find that interesting, unlike the curds, which they would absolutely love. And so food grade, this vegetable ash became a really great tool for that. But what they also found is that it impacts the pH level of a cheese. And so by adding it to a cheese, it can actually adjust the pH and maybe make it much less acidic overall on your palate, or it can create a better environment for a different type of mold to grow or to really take over. And so they use it as a technique now, and of course it's aesthetically gorgeous. This cheese, Mary Keene said she came up with in her dreams one night, and so I think Robert said he's in a fog of goodness. So I believe it.
So it makes it just visually a striking beauty.
Mm-hmm. And so
ash, it was originally keep those buggies away, for aesthetics, and then now helps, you can play with it in recipes to sort of alter the pH as well.
Yeah, and so you can see it's been used on both the second cheese and the third cheese, so you can see that it's a popular tool, and I just absolutely love it. Blue mold, if there are cheeses that don't have piercings, like they're the middle, that don't look like a traditional blue mold, you would know the difference on the rind. It would be definitely more blue-green. If there was a coating of the blue mold on the outside, it would definitely be more blue-green rather than this gray or black.
Yeah. So now you know that in Humboldt Fog, you guys are all aficionados, and anytime you go into a cheese shop, you guys you won't be the ones who try to argue with us, and we have to politely figure out how to get out of it. That is ash. So there is mold on the cheese, but it's not any mold that derives from a blue cheese mold. It derives from, again, you don't have to remember this part, but Penicillin camembert, which comes from like the camembert family. So this is your style of bloomy rind cheeses, because they bloom that white mold all around it, that are brie and camembert and other favorites like that. But these with this black ash, if you ever see it and it looks perfect on it, blue molds are rampant, and they're going to go everywhere depending on where the cheese is pierced. But if there's a perfect line through the middle, like this Humboldt Fog, or it's perfectly around the outside, then now you know that is ash, most likely vegetal ash. Mm-hmm. Yay!
It's so good. Randy just said it was the best cheese he's ever tasted.
And this cheese has won like a bazillion awards.
It's true, which is why we chose them as our next spotlight for behind the scenes, is because they're an iconic cheesemaker, and Mary Keene is one of the most humble, nicest women in the industry. And
considered one of the original, what we endearingly call the goat ladies of the 80s, but one of the women who started and founded the American artisan cheese movement.
Yeah. And it was her story at the Fancy Food Show in 2019 that helped me call a therapist for the first time and get help. As from one small business owner to another small business owner, and I will always be grateful for Mary. So keep eating that cheese, y'all.
Of what image of success we project that we can all still have tough times going on.
Yeah, Kai is asking what else people are drinking. We didn't get that many. Hey, I'm drinking this. I'm drinking that. So
we got a few.
that's
I saw Prosecco. Prosecco would be lovely with both of these first two, even this third cheese. So sparkling wine, we love, honestly, with all cheeses. If I can only pair one thing, I was thinking about this on my morning walk because I'd rather think about drinking and cheese. If I could only pair one thing with cheese, to me it would be bubbles.
Whether that's
Water,
rosé bubbles,
yeah.
red bubbles,
Whether I'm drinking alcohol or not, bubbles. So whoever's drinking the Prosecco, that's fantastic. And let's see.
Gin, cocktails, Fireball, if that's your thing, go for it.
Usually the way we do our tastings is you're starting in a more lighter, nuanced flavor profile and then moving to heavier. That's a very generic because it doesn't mean the first one isn't as flavorful as the last one. Oftentimes it's about how long the finish is going to be and what is going to stay on your palate the longest.
Yep.
For instance, which is why we always do blue cheese last, because if you have it first, it's going to stick with you the whole time. That being said, you can think of your wine or beer pairings the same way. So your lighter profiles are usually the first 3 to 4, then or 2 to 3, and then move into your medium bodied and that 3, 4, 5, and then those last ones can usually be what takes on something big, whether it's a really big red wine or whether it's like a porter or stout as well. So that's kind of our general pairings, which you'll see on the back of your menu of how you can kind of work through it too. Okay.
So exciting.
So myth number 2 was that ash, I didn't know how to exactly word it, but ash is not blue mold. Okay, we got it. I'll work on how to make that more exciting. Busted!
Busted. Boom, busted. I want a stamp. I feel like we should have gotten a stamp.
All right.
Next time we do this. All right.
Number 3.
Cheese number 3.
Is that this one is one that I think I had worked for like 3 or 4 years before I found this out, y'all. Super exciting. This is what some other people said they most commonly hear customers and cheesemongers get wrong, is that gooey cheeses, people think they are the fattiest.
Why don't we talk about the cheese?
I forgot to do that first.
Let's talk about the cheese.
Okay, I got really excited about the Mythbusters. All right, so we can see visually, and John's going to tell us about this cheese. But this is another ash. So you have what they did on this cheese. It's another bloomy rind cheese, but they coated it in ash and then let the bloomy rind grow over it.
Yeah, and this is super cool. Kendall and I have 2 different pieces. Again, they're small wedges. So for all of the folks on the event tonight,
Can't really see it.
it's about 75 of us. We'll have cut into multiple wheels for that. And so this is from Boxcar Handmade Cheese in North Carolina. They are from a farm that was established in 2009, and they've been making cheeses, I think, since 2014, 2015.
Glad, so glad.
And it is so good. This is cow's milk, which they source from neighboring farms. They have a herd of goats on the farm, but this is a cow's milk cheese. And what they do with this is some really special. It comes in a square that's about 1.5 to 2 inches tall and square. And so oftentimes what they'll do with these is they'll age them out some and then just cut a hole in the top so you can just scoop in there and get it. So like my piece was extra runny. Kendall's had a chalky interior.
The runny part is so good.
So usually we get these and they're much runnier.
Which is why we paired it with these little sourdough crackers, because you usually, they're so runny that you just dip it into it.
See, my piece is like running all over the place. It's all over.
I'm going to lick your fingers. Sorry, that's for 2.0. Later.
And so the myth that we're addressing with this, so also picture a brie, right? It's often very fudgy. It's like running all over the plate. It's oozy. And most often, people associate that with really fatty cheese. Oh, that's got so much fat in it, or there's way too much fat in that particular piece. And that's the myth. And what we're going to bust for you is it's the math behind the myth, obviously, is where we get to it. And so a cheese, like a different way to think about it is, let me think the best way, the easiest way. I don't want to go straight into the math. That's usually what I do, and I don't want to do that. So it's...
This is the math. Do the math.
Okay, I'll do the math. So this is based around water content, okay? So if it looks like it's running like water, it likely has water in it. And so the softer a cheese, the higher concentration of water still in it. So the difference between cheese number 3 and cheese number 6 is water content. A lot of the difference is water content when it comes to fat. And so a cheese here, like this particular Rockets Robiola, is going to have about 30 to 33% of the total matter being fat. Water will make up about 50% of it. So there's a lot more water in here than there is fat.
And this one, in an age like a Parmigiano Reggiano, it's more like 40, 45%, probably 40,
Yeah.
or 45% fat content because it doesn't have all that water.
It's going to have way less water. And a cheddar might have equal parts water, equal parts fat. And then butter is
80%.
over 80% fat. So if you like the butter that we sell, the Vermont Creamery salted cultured butter, that's 84% fat in that. And so we're talking about 33% fat versus 80% fat. And Bries have, oftentimes they can have less fat than, say, one of these aged cheeses because of that, ounce for ounce, because of that moisture content.
So the exception to the rule is, because Dawn just asked, points for Dawn, we queued that up, there are double Crams and triple Crams. So what that means in this category of cheeses is that they add cream or butter fat back into it in the process. So a triple Creme has over 75% butter fat. They've added it back in. Because
they're just adding pure cream, pure fat, directly into the milk.
Yeah.
To bring that fat content up. It's very strategic.
Which is why those triple Cremes are almost like butter, is because they've added cream in them to be like butter. This one is not, so that we could show that a runny cheese, it has less fat. This is not one that is a double Creme or triple Creme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is not. No, this is not a triple Creme. This is a traditional cheese that 90% of these softer styles of cheeses aren't in that triple Creme category, 95%. And so we wanted to share just sort of the way that math works. And so you could be, looking at a cheese like this, it's not runny, it's not fatty, but in fact, it's all good fats, a higher concentration of it. It's super cool. That cheese tasted so good tonight.
Yeah. Look, you were like, we're not going to have enough to talk about, and we were doing good.
Yeah. Awesome.
So here's what you're learning is that the myth, runny cheese is fattier. Busted.
Oh,
It
busted.
is not. Unless it's a double or triple Creme, which is more rare, a runny cheese has higher water content in it, and it's actually the aged cheeses which are going to have a higher fat content.
All right, I'm typing in the pairing. You want to talk about the
Yes.
sourdough crackers?
Our pairing was these locally made sourdough crackers, the Sourdough Project, for husband and wife team with Danny. They have all different flavors. You can get them at the farmer's market. You can get them at our shop. I think they're at other shops available now too.
Yep.
They have an everything bagel, a regular sourdough. These are naturally really low in gluten because they are made with that original sourdough and locally milled wheat from Barton Springs Mill. Delicious. Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want me to go more in depth on that? Or are you just still eating your bite?
I'm still chewing my.
Okay.
Why don't we dive into the next cheese, the Gruyere?
Great. So we still did the 7 styles tonight. We're just not talking about what the 7 styles are.
Yeah, we didn't. Well, no wash frying, right?
Oh yeah, I couldn't
So-
think of that for a category. Okay, so next up, you talk about the cheese. We're eating our Gruyere. Not all Gruyères are created equal, y'all. This one's
Yes.
awesome.
This is 1655 Gruyere. This is
Just smells like onions in a good way.
from Fromagerie
French onion
Lacrette,
soup.
and Fromagerie Lacrette has consistently been in the very top tier of Gruyere cheese making. Gruyere has, excuse me, I've got something in my throat.
Okay, I just noticed we were both doing it once. So in case you're curious, 1, we were smelling it, but 2, we were cracking it under our nose. And that's to the aroma compounds to break and to waft up into your nose so that you can really get that full aroma of it.
Sorry about that, y'all. I got so excited about the cracker, I think I just inhaled it instead of chewed it. So Lacrette has consistently won top, highest marks in terms of the quality of the wheels of Gruyere that they are producing and aging out. And so this is a supreme example of Gruyere. This has so many dark, deep notes of that, roasted onion, good garlic. You get some of the cave notes. But Fromagerie Le Crème, we can go into it in a different experience. But just know this is a world-class Gruyere, and this is just something that's incredibly special.
So the myth I wanted to bust with this one. Oh, first of all, we paired it. This has been the highlight. I think we've gotten more comments on this pairing than anything else, which makes me happy because it's one of my favorite pairings. But we weren't sure if customers would like it. And these are the balsamic glazed chipolline onions. So this style of cheese, these Alpine mountain style cheeses, the Gruyere, are known for this like beef broth, bouillon cube, caramelized onions, French onion soup, and then a whole other slew of delicious flavor profiles that gets very specific. But we like to bring out some of those savory notes, and so we paired it with the caramelized onions. So hopefully together it tastes like a French onion soup. I'm gonna do it in a minute because I need to talk. But
I can talk for a second if you want.
No, I'm not done.
Go, my love.
I'm not done. Okay, we took a week off, and it's like we're out of our cadence. Okay.
We're good.
But the myth that we want to bust is, here's the myth: raw milk cheeses are illegal in the United States. When we first opened, we regularly had people come into the shop going, "Psst, hey, you got any raw milk cheese back there?" And John and I would kind of look at each other and kind of laugh and giggle. And first of all, we're kind of just thinking of you breaking laws, like, kind of makes me laugh. Like, I don't know.
It's just not my style. It's just not my style. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah, so let's say that you weren't the really crazy wild one in high school, right?
Nope.
Although in college I had that perception of you and this wild boy attitude, which is probably why I was attracted to you, but then later found out that you were pretty good and straight-laced. And so all that being said, no, we did not put all of our life savings into this cheese shop, and then we're going to sell some counterfeit cheese around the corner. So that's why we kind of laugh about it, like, too much on the line. So here's the myth. Yes, we can sell raw milk cheese. The laws and regulations around raw milk are completely different than they are around raw milk cheese. So we can sell any raw milk cheese in the United States as long as it is aged over 60 days. That is the FDA 60-day rule. And
came about in 1949. They did some science around it as best they could at the time. And that was what they decided, was that after 60 days, the risk that a foodborne pathogen or contagion could survive was incredibly low. And so the raw milk cheeses of the world that get into our country, yum, wonderful. And then there are those that can't come into the U.S. So raw milk camembert or raw milk brie, the sort of gold standards of those flavor profiles.
If you've only ever had brie in the United States, you haven't had real traditional
brie de Meaux or camembert de Normandy, because they wouldn't last on the shelf that long. By the time 60 days hits, they would go bad. And that rule required cheeses to be aged over 35 degrees, so sort of the microbial activity inside the cheese would eventually render all those pathogens non-existent. And so we can get raw milk cheese. Now, it is illegal to sell in most all states. Some states have their own laws around raw milk cheese. Maine, for one, has those rules. But for the majority of our country...
Wait, you're saying Maine... You're saying Maine can't sell any raw milk cheese?
No, they can.
Yes. Okay, I think you said it a little funny.
Wrong.
Yeah, I was like, that's not what I heard.
Maine does have some cheeses that are sold at markets or from the farm itself that are raw milk.
But can't cross state lines. So there are different local governing bodies, just like there are for raw milk. So you can actually buy raw milk in certain places from certain certified farms that are allowed to do so, even though we're trying to separate milk and cheese. But it's different from locality and region to region. But that being said, across the United States, the overriding rule is we can sell raw milk cheese as long as it's aged over 60 days.
60 days.
And what's the difference in raw milk and pasteurized?
So raw milk and pasteurized. Raw milk is non-handled, non-heated. And pasteurization was a technique that was identified as a way to deactivate or destroy bacteria, pathogens inside of the milk. And Louis Pasteur came up with it, and it's a heat treatment. And the United States government actually has very specific types of pasteurization that are required to meet the specific needs of the products. And so you could do very low and slow heat, and that maintains some of the natural enzymes and probiotics and things inside the milk, or super high, ultra high temp, where you kind of for a millisecond it goes to
like a lot of industrial cheese production,
high temperature, and it sort of neutralizes and sanitizes the milk effectively, and that is also okay. And so when you often work with small dairies and farmstead operations, they are using that slow and low method, which is you heat the milk up to a certain temperature and keep it there for 30 minutes to try to keep.
They're trying the least amount of agitation of those beautiful curds. The more you agitate them and break them off, you can get off flavors and destroy the trying to capture that milk and what tastes great about that milk.
So the chat window pretty much moved over to myth number 1. I think Jim might have missed the entire first cheese because you're asking about healthy. How can cheese be healthy? I feel like we had talked about that a little bit.
Jim, you're gonna have to go back and watch cheese number 1.
As to reiterate, healthy fats, balanced diet. That's what it comes down to. Cheese can be an awesome fat.
Let's keep going. So we're good. Okay.
And this will go live again if you want to re-listen, Jim, later on. But somebody did include a link. So.
Yes. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, whoever put it in there for us. All right. I hope you like that pairing. It's one of my favorites. Okay. Our next cheese before myth.
Cheese before myth. Cheese before myth.
Our next cheese.
Beautiful sheep milk with this black paraffin wax rind. You can take that rind, the wax off if you'd like. This is Mitica Sardo. So this is a cheese that is made in Sardinia in the style of Fiore Sardo, which is a world-class cheese. It's an aged sheep's milk cheese.
Oftentimes people will think of this cheese as more just, they'll say, do you have a pecorino? Pecorino just meaning little sheep, but
so
oftentimes people are thinking Pecorino Romano or Pecorino Toscano, which are just from the regions that it come from. But it's an aged sheep's milk cheese. So from the Isle of Sardinia comes this aged sheep's milk cheese. What is this type of style of cheese known for? It's this sheep's milk cheese is known for like being the richest. It's the fattiest of the 3 milk types of cow, goat, and sheep. As it ages out, it can be really nutty. Kind of this decadence, this rich decadence to it, which oftentimes makes me reminisce and think of like the lanolin on the wool, but you get that kind of like texture, that smooth, silky smooth.
This piece is outstanding. This reminds me when I grew
Smell
up.
it.
When I grew up, we used to use pecorino in my house instead of Parmigiano Reggiano on pasta and things. So this instantly takes me back. It's got these great lemon notes in it. It tastes like cooked pasta. It's got awesome salt. So again, this is not just a garnish. This should be an ingredient in the pasta that, like, when you're cooking, you should use this.
And like the rinds and all of the above. What was I going to say on this? Oh, if you're drinking reds, this is the first one that I think will be like, oh, yeah, that really helps the red stand out, depending on what type of red you're drinking. But sheep's milk cheeses are known to play well with some bigger, bolder reds and can hang with them and not be overpowered by the red.
I love this cheese tonight. And
I love sheep's milk cheese with chocolate, and so tonight we paired it with...
This is Piedras de Lunas, chocolate-covered cashews from our friends at Aperimax. This is like my...
we bring these home, and then they're gone. And so I'm like, John, what are you doing? And John will have eaten them all. But
this cup hasn't been opened yet, but it'll be gone within the next 24 hours.
Better not be.
Well, now that I've gotten a taste, because I just did the pairing together.
Yeah, when we're pairing that nuttiness with it and the richness of the chocolate with the cheese. So, what is our myth? Our myth is...
You want me to talk about it?
I'm going to say the myth and you can talk about it.
Perfect.
Come on, we got to
Let's
peel
do
it
this
up.
thing.
Lactose, you cannot eat cheese if you are lactose intolerant. That is the myth.
That is the myth.
Take it away.
So, this was one of the first things that kind of blew my mind about cheese way back in the day. We even have a sign on the wall inside the shop that has this graphic to it. And the process of making cheese is taking this liquid milk and acidifying it, and then separating the curds and the whey. And the acidification process comes about with some sort of culture of bacteria, lactobacillus, things like that. And those little bacteria, whether it's natural, it's like spontaneous to ferment the milk, or if it is added in, usually in cheese making, they add the bacteria in, they consume the lactose. They eat sugar and they turn it into acid. And in order to make cheese, you have to take your milk, which is roughly a base 7, at the 7 on the pH scale. You have to bring it down into the 5s, in the high 4s. And so to do that, you use this bacteria to change the actual composition of the milk by removing the sugars. And so by the time you take this milk and you actually get to the part where the whey separates, the lactose is water soluble, so a lot of the whey, the sugar will go with the whey. And then inside the curds, you will start to see these bacteria continue to consume and break down and consume and transition to lactic acid. And so by the time you're putting them into molds and hooping them and things, you're almost all the way to no trace amounts of lactose. And by the time you age something out, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 10 months, you can't actually, there might still be some, but you can't actually measure it. There's so little lactose left.
So when I was looking at cheesescience.org by Pat Plasky, and tell me if I get my numbers wrong, but it was like there's 4% lactose when you start, and then by hour 4 in the vat, it's basically like 1% or 0.05%, and then by month 1, it's just barely existent, and then by 3, there's like no trace amounts. So just to show you that, so what does all that boil down to? That really scientific, beautiful explanation.
I thought I did great.
You did great. I mean, I got lost halfway through it, but you did great. Aged cheeses, basically no lactose in them. Even young cheeses, trace amounts. So where we'll go from here is, say you eat cheese though, and you're like, Kendall, girl, you're saying that like there's no lactose. I still had to take a Lactaid before I ate this. My stomach hurts, put it up, whatever it is. We can't argue with how your body reacts when you eat cheese. So if you're eating cheese and your stomach still gets upset, or you still get gassy or some other issues, that is actually a protein allergy. Or I don't know, but it's most likely a protein allergy. So it is most likely not lactose intolerance, because we've just found out that there's trace amounts, if any, lactose in cheeses. And it's more likely a protein allergy. So then a lot of our customers will walk through different types of cheese if it's something they just really don't want to give up. So the fat globules of the proteins of a cow's milk cheese are the biggest, and so they're arguably the harder to digest. So a lot of folks will recommend start with an aged goat's milk cheese, then incorporate a sheep's milk cheese, and then see if you can digest a cow's milk cheese. Because you may come to find out in the end that you're just more
susceptible.
To that cow's milk protein, but you can eat goat's milk and sheep's milk cheeses all the time. So the secondary myth is that there's less lactose in goat's and sheep's milk cheeses, and busted.
Yeah, that's not really true.
Yeah, so they're all pretty equal. So if it's that you can eat one type better than others, that is actually about allergies to the proteins. All right.
Cool. I think that's pretty
So
good.
the myth that we busted was lactose intolerant can't eat cheese.
And I, having taken Lactaid for a long part of my young adult life, Lactaid, the pill, it's basically lactase. It's the enzyme that digests the lactose. So if you say you're lactose intolerant, if you drink a glass of milk, you'll be hit with lactose problems. If you eat ice cream, which is pure, all that sugars, you'll have the same thing. But cheese, you might actually react differently. I think that's cool. We're not your doctors. You should always seek medical advice if you need it. But it's a very cool thing to know that the science of cheese, the making of cheese, means that we're removing lactose as much as possible all the way, and so that you can enjoy, hopefully, these aged cheeses.
All right, we gotta move, y'all.
Yeah, we do.
Next cheese, this one is a super fun one. When we are eating, which Gouda? Born
This
Toss.
is Lemieux's Gouda.
Oh, Lemieux's.
From Betty Costa in Holland. This is one of the greatest.
Even smells like salted toffee to me.
It's stuck in my teeth now.
Okay.
It sticks to your mouth like peanut butter, and then you have to lick it off. That's what I like so much. Lemieux's Signature Gouda. If you go to our YouTube channel and you watch the Essex Street tasting that we did, it was our first behind the scene. We actually have a showcase of Betty Coster. She is like a matriarch in the cheese industry. We just think she's awesome. And she makes these traditional Dutch Goudas in a non-traditional way. So she ages them at a higher temperature so they can develop faster and not take as much time. And develop the crystals, which we're tasting.
Wait, no, that's my part. Okay,
you go.
So
I love you.
We're on this cheese. Go ahead and eat it. What did it taste like? Give me some
heaven.
tasting. I didn't eat it, so I can talk about it.
Caramel, butterscotch, toffee.
And that's one because it's a Gouda, and well, because it's a Gouda and the recipe and the way it's made and the culture's
A
used.
lot of umami.
We've paired this with cherry Cabernet preserves. No.
Apple cider.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, that was wrong. Don't look at me. I'm just trying to be quick on that part. We've paired this with a pure apple cider jelly from Vermont. Okay, so
Just
what are...
dunk that, y'all. That is so. Look at how good that is.
Here's the myth that we're busting. It's not necessarily a myth per se, but people come in all the time. They're like, well, this is the myth. I love flavor crystals. So...
Is that salt?
Yes. So what or people will call them salt crystals or flavor crystals. So we're talking about the crystals, and you can see them in this with those little white flecks in there. So this is because of two different things. And this Gouda specifically, go for it, John.
Okay. So there's multiple different types of crystals in cheese, but this one.
Two main ones.
This one is tyrosine. We're going to talk about tyrosine as this kind of the structure. So if this was salt, it would make your mouth pucker. All of these little crystals were bunches of salt. Your mouth would pucker, and it's really not likely that these are going to be actual salt. And so instead, you get this really nice crunch and a bit of this intense flavor, but not that puckering on your tongue. You get this amazing aroma. And so this is tyrosine. It's when these cheeses age out, the proteins are very long long chains that are broken down into the peptides and then eventually the amino acids. And it's when these amino acids and tyrosine in particular kind of clump together, they come together and they find each other and they bind together, that they end up creating this sort of crystalline structure. And that's what gives us these flavor crystals.
Yep.
And what did you want to say something else?
Yeah, people will call them flavor crystals, but they actually don't add any flavor to it. It's just that you find this type of crystals, these tyrosine crystals, in aged cheeses. So aged cheeses are known for a lot of flavor because basically it's, as we've already talked about, John, you just spilled that all the way down. It's the most condensed form or version of that cheese. That'll be for later. So people think of them as flavor crystals. Really, they're just adding texture, but it's because they come in cheeses that are generally this style of cheese, these these Dutch styles, Swiss styles that are aged out, and they often have a lot of flavor to them.
So in some cheeses, they can be considered defects, and some cheeses they can be considered amazing aspects. And a great historical note: the American Cheese Society conference. This one cheese, when Cabot Clothbound won Best of Show, that wheel had these crystals in it, which was not necessarily normal to that cheese, but the judges loved it that year, and they gave it best in the country, which is super cool.
And then one other type of crystal, these are usually the kind when we know people are coming in, they're like, I want the flavor crystals. They're talking about this kind, which comes on an aged cheese, and those break down in amino acids and into tyrosines. I didn't say that exactly right, but the breakdown in amino acid groups known as tyrosine. The other kind is calcium lactate, most often found on aged cheddars, oftentimes that are vacuum sealed, and it's from either, they say improper sealing, but it just really means that there was some moisture still in there, and that is the cheese sort of, why are you smiling at me?
You're awesome.
I was like, am I about to go off track here?
Go, have fun.
So...
so basically the calcium will actually move to the outside of the edge of the cheese, so you'll see this white if you come in and look at our 10-year cheddar, you'll see that
And it's
sort
like
of
around the
layer on the
outside.
outside.
And kind of creates these little crunchies too.
And it's super
That's what I
cool.
was gonna say. And then like you made me check myself.
No, you were doing
I
awesome.
thought you were giving me the eyeballs. So anyway.
I was thinking how beautiful you are.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Thanks. All right. So
Sometimes
those.
that happens.
So the crystals are made of salt. Debunked. Myth. Instead,
Nobody even mentioned the tyrosine in the comments. It's like there's like a 20-minute delay. Usually people will be like, "Oh my God, it's tyrosine!" It's
but
the
now
crystals.
the crystals, are tyrosine.
It's so good, and it's gonna linger on your palate. I got some stuck in my teeth. It's it's just you have to lick it
Okay.
off like peanut butter. It's so good.
I keep trying to move to the next one.
All right,
God,
let's
it's like
do this
stuck on.
then.
Okay, so
Let's
last
do
one because I know some people have got to jump to other things. All right, we are on our blue cheese. This one is paired, so I just jumped to it, but try the cheese first with our food for thought cherry Cabernet preserves. Let me see if you can see them. Yay! Okay, blue cheese. We do our
this is so
101
good.
class, but you can see. Let me see if you can see them. Adjust. Oh, you kind of can see it. There's little holes in it, and that is where it was pierced, and so it allowed that mold that was already there to vein. The specific myth I wanted to talk about actually really pertains to us. Also, one that I found the least amount of science on, I will say, but it is that you cannot eat blue cheese if you are allergic to penicillin. So I'll take it away, and then you can go from there.
Done.
Okay,
Let's
so
do this thing.
The penicillin, the blue molding in blue cheese is derived from a strain of blue mold from Penicillium roqueforti, aka that original blue cheese Roquefort. So it's derived from that, and it's actually just a piece of that blue mold present, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can take it over from here.
So awesome. All right. So this Penicillium roqueforti is, if you think back way back to like 7th or 8th grade when you had to learn the whole domain, kingdom, blah 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 blah, genus, species. What we're talking about here is the domain, the kingdom of the fungi. We're in the molds category. Then we're talking about penicillin, and there's that is the genus, right? And below that are all the species, and it's at that level that we see major differences. And so I had to look this up. Penicillium chrysogenum is
That's why I threw it
Yeah.
to you because I couldn't remember the name of that.
and I would have never known that, is the species that derives the actual antibiotics. And that antibiotic is one that prohibits bacteria from growing within the human body. And the three doctors that came up with all that, they won a Nobel Prize and awesome stuff, which we can get in like a decade from now. We can do a class on that. But
I
that
forgot
is
to tell y'all that John got like the highest score ever at the time on his AP science test in high school, and it's like the first thing he told me about on our first date and all this stuff. So anyway, that's why I let him talk about some of these.
I crushed those.
Letting
tests.
you relive
I crushed
those glory
tests.
days.
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
Oops.
But we so Penicillium roqueforti is a very different species, and this one has within it a handful of different types of molds that can be used in food and in cheese. And so they are different. Now, I should say there are some individuals throughout the world that they could be allergic to both things, but it's not that if you're allergic to one, you're also allergic to another, because they are different species. And so that to me is at the crux of what this myth is. And so we want to make sure that people know that, and that at the end of the day, they are different species within the same genus. So both are, the medicine's called penicillin. We say penicillin, or we say penicillium in cheese class, but it is the same genus, different species. And I think that's a super cool thing. It is an.
So it said that, like, my research said, like, less than a lot of people are misdiagnosed as being allergic to penicillin. That was one thing, although I don't think anybody wants to test it or play with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have been misdiagnosed with that. And something of like, of those, less than 5% of people are allergic to all of those things. Yeah. So that is just to say that it's a very small section of the public. So more likely than not, you can eat it. But again, consult your doctor, do all of those things.
And what I thought was cool in my research was that penicillin the name derives from the Latin word for painter's brush, because that's what it looks, the actual mold looks like a painter's brush, which is cool. I love it.
See, we do these because we get to like research and go deep and things that we haven't gotten to talk about for a long time.
Anna asked if there was a second date after me talking about. I also talked about my cross country prowess. So
I swear, I remember where he was like, "Hey, you want to get out my videos from me running cross country?" And I was like,
date.
Actually, I don't know. I was pretty
maybe
smitten.
Second date. Let's say second date.
I would have done it anyway. I mean, he did take me out to fondue for our first date, so
definitely
there's,
it's gonna
you
be a
know,
second
the
date.
weight of my heart is straight through my stomach. The one other fun myth I wanted to debunk as you go to bed, which I had never heard about this, but I was researching myths, and it's that cheese gives you nightmares. And I don't know where that came from. Oh, I do know. When I started researching it, and I forgot to...
Urban Dictionary.
No, it was like in some famous poet's something poem at some point. And so then that's where this myth came from, is that cheese gives you nightmares. Actually, instead, it has tryptophan. Do I say that right?
Yeah.
And can help you sleep really well. So instead of giving you nightmares, cheese, which is now, I don't know if anybody's going to go to bed soon. We're early to rise, early to bed people, but cheese actually can help you go to sleep and fall asleep. And we have one customer who, there was a period in her life where she kept coming in, Carla, and getting one cheese for each night, and she would have her glass of red wine and her piece of cheese, her bedtime snack, and then go to bed.
Bedtime snacks are awesome, especially when it's cheese, y'all.
So there's lots of other myths out there. We'll do some other ones, but I'm so grateful you guys joined us for these. I hope you had fun with the pairings. I know we didn't dive as deep into the makers because we were going more into the science on each cheese. Next week, for fun, whether you have kids or people who aren't drinking alcohol, or you just need a change up, we are doing something a little bit different, and we are pairing cheeses with sodas from Maine Root. So Maine Root doesn't have any of all that fake sugar crap. It's real cane sugar, and there's no caffeine in any of these, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do it late night. But we're going to pair with a root beer. Basically, they're orange soda, so they're playing a Fanta. Don't you want a Fanta?
A blueberry.
A blueberry. Right? Oh, and a version of their Sprite, which is their lemon lime. And so we're going to do 2 cheeses with each one with a food pairing. So we'll have 8
cheeses and 4 beverages, y'all. It is going to be awesome. And
then the Wednesday after that, we are doing, which is kind of like a shoo in the cheese world, we are going to do all flavored cheeses. And we've got a cheese with bacon. We've got a cheese with seaweed. Which apparently is amazing, and I've never tried it. So we're excited to do all these different flavored cheeses. So we hope you will join us again. And then we just like to say it, that we appreciate you. Absolutely, because you were sitting there watching this. You are keeping us in business. You are allowing us to have kept our whole team. We didn't have to lay anybody off. I just said in our weekly email this week that the last 10 days we have seen a huge drop off. So far we've been really lucky through the pandemic. All of a sudden, it looks scarier just in the sense of if we continue down this path, we're always slow in the summer months. So if we can challenge you to, when it's really hot outside, to think about cheese, that would be awesome.
I know I am. I'm always thinking about cheese.
And keep supporting us, and whether us or not, anytime you can support any of your local food artisans or buy from any of your local small shops. The big shops, the grocery stores, they're going to make it. It's your smaller independent retailers and artisans who definitely need your help to get through this. So thank you for doing your part. You're supporting our Do Good, Eat Good mission. You're supporting our core principles of passion with purpose, be true to ourselves and others, be a juggernaut of awesome, family first in business, and improve every day. And if there's something we could have done to make this experience better, please reach out to us and let us know.
I could have moved the tree closer to my face if that's something that you wanted to see or not.
So let's go to the last thing and then sign off. I need to see you with your amount of heart emojis.
We're getting so many hearts.
About which cheese is your favorite. So we would normally do a vote. If we were on Zoom, we'd make you dance, but we can't see you. So you're just going to have to emoji the crap out of this. Excuse me, the crud out of this. All right. So you can vote.
As many times as you want. There's no rules tonight, y'all. Right. 7 times is the limit, actually.
Whose favorite cheese was number 1? Pure Luck Fresh Chef.
Fluffy White Cloud.
Woo!
That was so good tonight.
We got to yell for all of them. Whose favorite was number 2? Humboldt Fog. Okay, whose favorite was number 3? Rockets Robiola.
Yum, 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 yum.
Okay, whose favorite was number 4? Our Le Crête Gruyere. Was that number 4?
Yep.
Yes.
Le Crête Gruyere, 1655.
Okay, different noise for each. Whose
yeah,
favorite was our Minica Sardo? Yeah, I like that.
Oh, the Minica Sardo is so good.
Oh, look at those hearts going. I don't know
This
which
is
one
awesome.
that was for.
It was for
Which
all
one.
of them.
Okay, whose favorite was Cheese Crystals, our Lemuse Gouda out of Holland?
Yum, yum,
Oh,
yum.
yeah, I got some lovies. Okay, and last but not least, you guys, we never even said the name of this blue cheese.
Yeah, we did. I thought we said, oh, maybe we didn't. Little Boy Blue from Wisconsin, Mineral Point.
Hooks. Hooks are the cheesemaker, Little
Yeah.
Boy Blue, made with sheep milk.
Marissa had us covered because she's visited there often, so she put it in the.
Thanks, Marissa.
Marissa mentioned it in the chat. Thank you for loving.
We're fired. Awesome. You guys are amazing. Rambler.
So many hearts, y'all. So many hearts.
Thank you for sponsoring us, Rambler. We hope the rest of you will support Rambler because they are doing so much good for our community, and it's natural and sustainable and all sorts of yummy. So cheers. Thank you, Rambler. And most importantly, you guys are awesome.
Y'all. Thank you for letting us do what we love. Have an awesome rest of your Wednesday night and join us on our next date night soon. Thanks, y'all.